when my son told me I wouldn't be welcome at his house this Christmas. I simply smiled, climbed into my car, and made one phone call. By New Year's, their mortgage payments were canceled, and that was only the opening move of my plan. Justice had to be restored, and arrogance needed a reckoning. You won't believe what happened next. Before we go any further, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. I could bring my famous turkey this year, I said, sinking deeper into Michael's leather sofa. The one with the sage stuffing your mother adored. Remember how she always swore it beat her grandmother's? The words lingered in the warm air between us, blending with the scent of Isabella's pricey vanilla candles. Michael shifted next to me, his wedding band glinting in the glow of their 12-foot Christmas tree. His posture changed, shoulders curling inward as if bracing for a blow. Dad, unfortunately, you can't be here for Christmas. The words struck like a punch. I blinked, convinced I'd misheard. What are you saying? Why wouldn't I be welcome? Michael avoided my gaze, eyes fixed on the marble coffee table. I'd helped him pick out last spring when Isabella decided the old one wasn't refined enough. Isabella's parents are coming. They'd rather you weren't here. My hands went cold. They'd rather. It's just easier, Dad. You know how her family is with traditions. They do things their own way. His voice shrank with each sentence, like he was retreating inside himself. I looked around at the silk curtains I had paid for when Isabella fretted about privacy, at the hardwood floors funded by my second mortgage, at the crown molding that maxed out my credit card. Every corner of this house bore my fingerprints, my sacrifice, my love for my son. Their own way, I repeated slowly. In what way is that, Michael? He flinched. Dad, please don't make this harder. Through the kitchen archway, Isabella's new KitchenAid mixer sat gleaming, the professional model she'd needed for a holiday baking phase that lasted 3 weeks. 2,000s of my money, probably used twice since October. Where am I supposed to spend Christmas then? My voice came out softer than I meant. Michael's face folded. Maybe you could. I don't know. Visit Aunt Rosa. Or we could do something the weekend after. The weekend after. As if Christmas were an appointment easily rescheduled. I stood, my knees groaning after 8 years of carrying this burden alone. I see. Dad, wait. But I was already walking toward the door, past the family photos, where my face grew smaller and smaller in each frame, past the closet stuffed with Isabella's designer coats. My hand found the doorknob, cold and solid under my palm. Son, I said, without turning, tell Isabella's parents. I paused. Feliz Navidad. The December air slapped my face as I headed for my truck. Behind me, Michael called my name once, then the soft click of the door shut final. I sat behind the wheel for a moment, engine off, watching Christmas lights sparkle in windows of houses I'd never be welcome in. My phone buzzed. Probably Michael, ready with hollow promises. I ignored it. Instead, I turned the key and drove off into the night, leaving behind the warm glow of a home I had bought but never truly belonged to. The heater hummed against the December chill as I navigated familiar streets toward my house. South Hills stretched out, each corner holding memories of the man I used to be, the one who thought family meant everything, who'd give his last dollar for his son's smile. That man was a fool. I stopped at the red light on 29th and Grand, watching a young father load Christmas gifts into his SUV. His kids pressed their faces to the window, breath fogging the glass with excitement. That had been Michael and me once before Isabella, before I became nothing but an ATM with inconvenient feelings. Numbers churned in my head like a broken slot machine. $2,800 every month for 5 years. My calculator had given up trying to make sense of it when I tallied the total last spring. $140,000. More than Maria and I had saved for retirement gone. Just gone. The light turned green, and I pressed the accelerator harder than necessary. The truck growled back, matching my mood. 5th Street. That's where I refinanced our house, Maria's, and mine to cover their down payment. The loan officer's pity still echoed. Mr. Flores, are you sure? You're putting a lot at risk for someone else's investment. Someone else's investment. Not my son's future. Not my family's stability. Someone else's investment. Lincoln Street, the bank, where I took a second mortgage when Michael lost his job 2 years ago. Just temporary, Dad. Just until I'm back on my feet. Isabella had stood behind him, $700 purse slung over her shoulder, nodding sympathetically while mentally calculating what my desperation was worth. Nothing, in the end, was worth nothing to them. I pulled into my cracked driveway there, one I couldn't afford to repair, 'cause every spare dollar vanished into their perfect suburban fantasy. The porch light flickered, another fix I'd postponed. Inside, the house felt hollow without Maria's laughter, without the warmth of family gatherings that would never return. My phone rang as I fumbled with my keys, its shrill tone bouncing off empty walls. Isabella's name glowed on the screen, probably to explain why I wasn't good enough for her parents. Perfect. I'd been waiting 5 years for this conversation. I answered on the 4th ring, letting her sweat over whether I'd pick up. Dennis? Isabella's voice dripped with false sweetness, the same tone she used when asking me to cover the water bill or property taxes. I heard about the little misunderstanding with Michael. Misunderstanding. I leaned on the kitchen counter, coat still on. I don't think there's any misunderstanding, Isabella. You made your position clear. Look, I know it seems harsh, but my parents are very traditional. They expect a certain atmosphere for the holidays. A certain atmosphere, I repeated. And what atmosphere is that? A pause. Shopping bags rustled in the background, probably bought with money meant for their mortgage. My responsibility. Well, they're not used to your kind of cooking, all that spicy Mexican food and loud music. And frankly, Dennis, they're educated people. They expect conversation about literature, art, current events, you know? The words struck harder than a slap. 8 years of swallowing insults for Michael's sake, of pretending not to notice the way she looked at me like hired help. My kind of cooking. My voice stayed level. You mean the food you ate every Sunday for 3 years when money was tight? The tamales, you said, reminded you of your grandmother. That was different. We appreciated it then. But now, with my parents, now, with your parents, you can't have the Mexican peasant embarrassing you at your fancy table. The false sweetness vanished. Don't be dramatic, Dennis. This isn't about race. It's about class. My father graduated summa cum laude from Washington State. My mother speaks 4 languages. They summer in the Hamptons. What exactly would you contribute to dinner? Stories about laying tile. Heat rose in my chest, but my tone stayed steady. I built a business from nothing after your husband's grandfather died. I've employed over 50 people. I've paid more in taxes than your father earned in his best year. Money isn't everything, Dennis. Breeding matters. Education matters. And frankly, Maria knew her place better than you do. Silence. She'd crossed a line I hadn't even known existed. What did you just say about my wife? I'm just saying she knew how to blend in. She didn't make waves. She understood some spaces weren't meant for her. My grip on the phone whitened my knuckles. Maria had more class in her little finger than your entire family line. Oh, please. She was a house cleaner who got lucky. At least she stayed quiet about it. Isabella. My voice dropped into something unrecognizable. Listen carefully. This conversation is over. You can't just, we're done, I repeated, and ended the call. I placed the phone gently on the counter, my hands surprisingly steady. Around me, the kitchen felt smaller, but cleaner, like a weight had lifted. I walked to my desk in the corner and pulled out the manila folder I had avoided for months. Bank statements, mortgage papers, 5 years of automatic transfers that had bled me dry while they lived like royalty. Time to stop the bleeding. Part 4. The first decision, canceling the mortgage. The documents spread across the table like evidence at a crime scene. 5 years of statements, each showing the same transfer, $2,800 on the 15th of every month, vanishing from my account into there's a paper trail of my own stupidity. I picked up my calculator and began adding. Year 1, 33,600. Year 2, another 33,600. By the third year, I'd stopped buying myself new clothes. By the fourth, I was shopping almost exclusively at discount grocery stores. By the fifth, I was eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch just to stretch what was left. $143,400, and that didn't even include the down payment or the countless times I had covered their utilities when Isabella's spending habits spiraled out of control. It didn't include the new roof, the landscaping, or the endless furniture she claimed was necessary for their lifestyle. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the numbers until they blurred. Maria's life insurance money, my retirement savings, the college fund for grandchildren I'd likely never be allowed to meet. All of it gone, poured into a house that now shut me out of Christmas dinner. I reached for my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found the bank's number. The automated menu greeted me, offering English and Spanish. How considerate, how accommodating for people like me. Finally, a voice. Customer service. This is Jennifer. How can I help you today? I need to cancel an automatic transfer, I said, my voice steadier than it had been in years. Certainly, sir. I'll just need your account number and a few details for verification. I read them off, listening to her quick, professional typing efficient. No judgment. No questions about why a 62-year-old man was cutting off payments that had clearly been supporting someone else's mortgage. I see the transfer you're referring to, Mr. Flores. $2,800 monthly to Wells Fargo, account ending in 7,423. How long have you been making this transfer? 5 years, I said. The words tasted bitter. And you'd like to cancel it immediately? I glanced around at my worn-out kitchen, the old appliances I couldn't afford to replace, the walls needing paint, the drafty windows I hadn't fixed because my money kept disappearing into someone else's palace. Effective immediately, I confirmed. Done. The transfer has been canceled. Is there anything else I can help you with today? No, I said, surprised at how freeing the word felt. No, that's everything. I ended the call and sat in the silence of my home. Outside, darkness had settled over Spokane. Christmas lights glowing from windows where families gathered without conditions, without judgment, without shame. For the first time in 5 years, next month's budget would actually balance. For the first time since Maria's death, I could think about fixing my porch light, buying good groceries, maybe even taking a trip. I gathered up the statements, the mortgage papers, the proof of my 5-year sacrifice. Then I carried it all to the fireplace, struck a match, and watched my martyrdom curl into flames. The heat on my face was warmer than I'd felt in years. My phone buzzed a text, probably from Michael with an apology, or from Isabella with another urgent request. I didn't bother checking. Instead, I poured myself a glass of the good whiskey, the one I'd been saving for a special occasion that never came. Tonight was special enough. I raised my glass to the empty room, to Maria's photo on the mantel, to the man I used to be and the man I was finally becoming. Merry Christmas to me, I said, and I meant it. Part 5. Isabella's provocation. The next morning dawned bright and clear. Winter sunlight pouring through my kitchen windows as I sipped my second cup of coffee. For the first time in years, I wasn't calculating what would disappear from my account in 3 days. Freedom tasted better than the Colombian roast I'd finally splurged on. At exactly 10:47 a.m., my phone rang. Isabella's name lit up like a warning flare. "Dennis," she said, her voice sharp with irritation, barely disguised. "I need you to pick up my parents from Spokane Airport. Their flight from Portland lands at 2 o'clock. I set my mug down slowly, watching the steam rise. "Isabella, did you forget about our conversation yesterday? Look, whatever that was about, We need to focus on practical matters now. My parents need transportation, and you're the only one with free time during the day." The audacity stunned me. Less than a day after telling me I wasn't worthy of her Christmas table, she expected me to play chauffeur for her family. "And you're asking me because that's what family does, Dennis. They help each other." Her voice snapped, dripping with disdain. "Besides, let's be honest, not even my rival. You're too weak for that. So just get in your truck and pick them up." There it was, the final insult, wrapped neatly in an order. "What airline?" I asked, my voice calm. "Alaska Air, Flight 447. They'll be at Carousel 3. And Dennis, make sure you can handle their luggage. Don't embarrass us." I could hear her nails tapping against the granite countertop I'd paid for when she decided. Laminate wasn't good enough for her parties. "Of course," I said evenly. "I'll take care of it." "Good. And wear something decent, maybe that blue shirt you wore to Michael's graduation." They noticed details like that. The line went dead. Not even a thank you. I stared at the blank phone screen. 2 o'clock, Flight 447. Baggage claim 3. I glanced at the clock, 10:52. Plenty of time. I poured another coffee, added extra sugar, and unfolded yesterday's newspaper, returning to a crossword clue I hadn't solved. 7 across. Delayed gratification. 12 letters. The answer would come eventually. Part 6. The airport trap by 2:15 p.m. I was stretched out in my favorite chair, sipping Earl Grey and leafing through the Sunday edition of the Spokane Review. The crossword was finished now. Delayed gratification. Postponement. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Isabella's name. I let it ring. Sunlight slanted through the windows, warming the same room where I'd once sat counting the costs of my generosity. Today, the silence felt different, intentional, earned. At 2:47, the phone buzzed again. A preview of her text appeared. "Dad, where are you?" "My parents are." I flipped the phone face down and turned to the sports section. The Seahawks had lost again. Some things never change. By 3:30, my phone had gone off 6 times. I'd finished the paper, brewed another pot of tea, and organized the junk drawer I hadn't touched in years. Amazing what you can get done when you stop being someone's unpaid servant. At 3:45, the 7th call came, this time from an unknown number. Probably her parents, borrowing a stranger's phone at the airport. I let it ring, too. Outside, a neighbor was stringing Christmas lights while his kids raced across the yard, laughter filling the chilly air. Normal families, normal traditions. No one stranded, no one waiting for someone who would never arrive. At 4:15, the buzzing became relentless. Isabella, then the unknown number, then Isabella again. Like an angry wasp trapped against glass. I walked to the kitchen, unplugged my landline, then powered down my cell phone. Perfect silence. I made myself a grilled cheese and heated up tomato soup, comfort food I hadn't allowed in months, 'cause every grocery dollar had been siphoned off to prop up their lifestyle. The bread browned perfectly, the cheese melted golden, the soup steamed in my favorite mug. Outside, the sun slipped low, casting long shadows across my yard. Somewhere across town, 3 people were likely standing in an airport garage, arguing about cab fare, furious that their servant hadn't come to fetch them. The thought made my soup taste even better. By 5 o'clock, I'd eaten dinner, loaded the dishwasher, and debated which movie to watch. It had been years since I'd had an evening entirely to myself. No emergency calls, no last-minute demands. I was reaching for the remote when the pounding started. Not knocking, pounding. Heavy, violent, shaking the doorframe with pure rage. I set my tea down and walked slowly to the noise, already knowing who it was. The pounding grew harder as I neared, each blow louder than the last. Through the peephole, 3 figures loomed on my porch like predators circling prey. I opened the door to find Cody Jenkins's red face inches from mine. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he barked, barging past me into my living room without waiting for an invitation. We waited at that damn airport for over 3 hours. Behind him came Catherine, hair disheveled, lips pressed into a razor-thin line. This is utterly unacceptable behavior for a man your age, Dennis. Barbaric. Really? Catherine's voice sliced through the air as Isabella followed behind her. Designer coat creased, mascara smudged. You humiliated us. Do you know what you've done? My parents had to take a $40 cab because you bailed on our house. My voice cut through their chorus of outrage like a razor through silk. They all froze, surprised by the cold steel underneath my words. Cody's face shifted from furious red to a darker purple hue. Excuse me? He snapped. You don't get to throw demands around here, buddy. Not after what you pulled. This is my home, I said calmly, planted by the doorway. And I want you out now. Catherine stepped forward, tone laced with the practiced condescension she'd used for years on people she considered beneath her. Dennis, you clearly don't understand how serious this is. My husband has connections all over this city business, social. You can't treat people like us and expect no consequences. I met her stare without flinching. Consider it a lesson about arrogance, about how you treat people you deem beneath you. Isabella's jaw dropped. A lesson. Who do you think you are? Who am I? I'm the man who finally stopped being your personal ATM and your on-call driver. I stepped aside and widened the doorway. Lessons over. Leave. Cody jabbed a finger toward my chest, but stopped short of touching me. You don't know who you're messing with, old man. I've been around this town longer than you've been alive. I know people, important people. You're about to learn the consequences. His voice dipped into a low, threatening whisper. Is that a threat, Mr. Jenkins? I asked coolly. It's a promise, he spat. Catherine smiled, sharp and cold. Actions have consequences, Dennis, and yours will be public. Isabella gripped her father's arm. Daddy, let's go. This sad old man isn't worth it. They marched out like a defeated battalion, but Cody paused at the threshold. You'll regret this, he warned. I guarantee it. I latched the deadbolt with a satisfying click and watched them pile into their rental through the window, still bickering as they drove away into the dark. The house felt oddly purer without them, like their presence had left a stain that was finally lifting. Yet their parting threats echoed in the sudden quiet. Public consequences, connections, important people. I picked up my cooling tea, a flicker of worry nudging at me for the first time since everything began. Then something stronger took over, anticipation. 3 days later, I was sipping coffee and skimming the Spokane Review when my face stared back from page 3. Headline: Spokane businessman abandons elderly couple at airport during holiday storm. My hands stilled on the mug. There I was in grainy black NY10 old company headshot. Probably 5 years old, framed beneath the story that made my blood run hot. The piece claimed Cody and Catherine Jenkins were left stranded at Spokane International for over 4 hours when family member Dennis Flores failed to pick them up. The couple, both nearing 60, supposedly waited outside in freezing weather as a winter storm warning swept the region. Winter storm warning when it had been 52 and sunny. We couldn't believe someone would just abandon us like that, Cody told the reporter. Presented as a wronged, retired bank executive. We called and called, but Mr. Flores never answered. The article went on about my erratic behavior and questioned my stability. There was no mention of Isabella's Christmas rejection or the 5 years I'd been bled dry. Only me, cast as the villain who deserted helpless visitors in a non-existent blizzard. I read it once, then again, then a third time. The byline: Patricia Morrison, lifestyle editor. I didn't know the name, but I knew the play. Cody had leveraged his contacts to place the story exactly where it would hurt. Smart, very smart. For the first time since this began, respect nudged through my anger. These weren't mere entitled brats throwing tantrums. They were tactical, and in a town like Spokane, reputation was everything. One well-placed smear could wreck decades of work. They declared war. I folded the paper and set it aside, my mind already shifting into strategy mode, the same focus that had built my business. This wasn't about a missed pickup anymore. This was about winning. I opened my laptop and began digging. Names, profiles, connections, every scrap of public information they'd carelessly left online. If they wanted chess, I'd show them how the game was played. Cody Jenkins, retired First National Bank manager, Spokane Country Club member, treasurer of the Inland Northwest Business Leaders Association, positions of trust, influence, vulnerability. Catherine's Instagram painted a seamless life of charity luncheons, tastings, and curated vacations in an image paid for by other people's money, much of it mine. Isabella's Facebook told the truth in her posts. Photos of the kitchen I'd funded, check-ins at restaurants while I covered their bills. A smug update last week, so excited to host Christmas and show off our hosting skills. The gall was breathtaking. Michael's LinkedIn gave me the final piece. A new connection to Patricia Morrison, the same editor who'd run the Hatchet piece. 3 mutual links between Cody and Patricia's editor confirmed the story had been planted with help. Amateur hour. I began compiling my own dossier. Bank statements, receipts, canceled checks, the $47,000 down payment from my home equity loan, the $18,000 kitchen renovation charged to my card, 60 mortgage payments of $2,800. The numbers mounted, $250,000. The real cost of 5 years of family support. A text from an unknown number buzzed on my phone, probably Isabella trying a new tack. I ignored it and kept working. By nightfall, I'd organized everything in a thick manila folder. Statements, receipts, screenshots of social posts flaunting purchases I had paid for, printed copies of the newspaper with my margin notes documenting every distortion. I circled the date on the wall calendar, December 24th. Not a holiday to celebrate, but the perfect day to reveal the truth. According to Isabella's Facebook event, she was hosting dinner for 12 family, friends, neighbors, the very people who read the Spokane Review and form opinions from it. People who deserved to know what had actually happened. I fetched my good camera, the one I used to document job sites, and set it where I could reach it. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve. Tomorrow, Cody Jenkins and his clan would learn what happens when you declare war on someone who actually knows how to fight. Christmas Eve dawned gray and bone cold, the kind of day that made you grateful for warmth and company. Too bad I wouldn't be welcome at either. I arranged my evidence like an attorney preparing a case. Bank statements by year, each monthly payment highlighted, receipts in chronological order. Photos printed from social media, Isabella's jewelry, vacation snapshots, the pricey decorations they'd shown off. I stacked 12 identical packets, each topped with a newspaper clipping and my read-dink notes in the margins. Beside Cody's quote about dangerous, weather-polished, ready for a different kind of farewell. Tonight, I was burying the man who let himself be treated like a doormat. Tonight, I'd step into someone who demanded respect. At 6:30 sharp, I loaded the evidence packets into my briefcase and drove toward Kendall Yards. Their home gleamed with warm light. The driveway and street jammed with cars. Through the wide windows, Cup see Isabella swirling wine and playing hostess in the dining room, performing in the house my money had bought. I parked across the street, checked my watch. 6:45. Perfect. Late enough that dinner was underway. Early enough they couldn't simply walk away. No escape routes left. The front door was unlocked. Of course, Isabella loved bragging about how safe her neighborhood was, how they didn't need security like those of us from less pristine areas. I stepped inside quietly. The air hit me, warm with the smell of roasted meat, clinking silverware, and bursts of laughter. Then Catherine's voice floated out, crisp and self-satisfied. "But darling, that's not how we do things in our family." More laughter followed. Our family. After all they'd done to cast me out of it. I entered the dining room with my briefcase in hand. 12 faces turned, a ripple of shock moving around the table. Isabella froze mid-sip. Michael's face strained. Cody and Catherine looked as though they'd seen a ghost. "Good evening, everyone," I said evenly, setting my briefcase on their marble sideboard. "I hope you don't mind me joining your Christmas celebration." Isabella was the first to recover. "Dennis, this is beyond inappropriate. You need to leave. Now." "Actually," I replied, opening the case and pulling out the first bundle of papers, "I think your guests deserve to know who really financed this dinner. This house, this lifestyle you've been showing off." One of Catherine's charity friends leaned forward, intrigued. "What is he talking about, Isabella?" "He's having some kind of breakdown," Isabella said quickly. "Michael, call someone." But I was already moving around the table, dropping a packet in front of each place setting. "Here are the bank statements," I said almost casually. 5 years of support. $168,000 in mortgage payments alone, plus the down payment, renovations, furniture. Even the appliances you're eating off tonight. The room hushed, broken only by the shuffle of pages as 12 guests examined the evidence. Faces shifted as the numbers, dates, and receipts sank in. "This is," one man began, then trailed off, staring at a page. "Outrageous," finished the woman across from him. "Isabella, why on earth didn't you mention any of this?" Isabella's composure faltered. It's more complicated than it looks," Dennis offered. "We never asked." "Actually," I interrupted, laying down copies of the newspaper article. "Let's talk about what you did ask Farad, what you told the press about me." The room chilled instantly. Guests recognized the article, the photo, the smear job. "Notice how I'm painted," I said, tapping the headline. "Unstable, cruel, leaving poor, helpless elders stranded in freezing weather." A man in a designer sweater frowned. "Cody, what is this?" "The weather was sunny, wasn't it?" 52 degrees, I answered before Cody could speak. "And those weren't abandoned tourists, they were Isabella's parents. Parents I was barred from seeing at Christmas dinner because, apparently, I wasn't fit company." Catherine stammered. "That's not, we never said." "You never said what, Catherine?" I held up my phone with screenshots from Isabella's own posts. "That my Mexican food and working class manners would humiliate you in front of your educated circle. That my presence would be inappropriate." One of Catherine's friends shifted uncomfortably. "Surely, Catherine, you didn't?" "He's twisting this," Cody snapped, though his voice wavered. "This man has mental issues, stress, age, financial troubles." "Financial troubles." I nearly laughed. "I've been funneling nearly $3,000 a month into your daughter's household for half a decade. The only financial trouble here is the one you're about to face." I turned to the room at large. "They've taken over $200,000 from me while mocking me behind my back. They poisoned my son against me. And when I finally refused to be their servant, they tried to destroy me publicly." Michael's voice cracked. "Dad, I didn't know about the newspaper." "Your wife knew," I said softly, "and her parents engineered it." The mood in the room shifted. Guests exchanged glances, their realization dawning. An elderly woman in pearls held up the statements, her face stern. "This is disgraceful. Cody, you let your daughter bleed this man dry, then smeared him when he finally said no." Cody tried to protest. "You don't know the whole. I know enough," she cut in. "This man carried your family. You repaid him with cruelty." Catherine sputtered. "He abandoned us at the airport. After you barred me from dinner because I wasn't appropriate," I said evenly. "After 5 years of carrying your bills while you sneered at my background." Silence. 12 pairs of eyes fixed on them, disgust, plain. Isabella tried one last time. "Please, everyone, this is a family matter, gone too far." "No," I said firmly. "It stopped being family when you dragged my name through the paper." when you turned me into your scapegoat. I swept the room with my gaze. I wanted you all to hear the truth before you see my name in print again, because you will. Only next time, it'll be the real story. I closed my briefcase and straightened my tie. Asterisk. I set the letter aside and went back to my coffee. Treating it the way you read about storms in another state, it's interesting, but no longer my concern. For weeks, my phone had been buzzing with increasingly desperate calls. Isabella's number had been blocked after her first hysterical voicemail. Cody and Catherine, their social standing in Spokane dissolved like fog after that disastrous Christmas dinner. Even Michael had called, his voice messages unanswered, part anger on my part, part curiosity to see how long it would take him to finally swallow his pride. 97 days, as it turned out. That Thursday evening, he knocked on my door, looking nothing like the confident man who once told me I wasn't welcome for Christmas. He looked 10 years older than he had 3 months ago. Dark rings shadowed his eyes. His pricey suit was wrinkled, and the reek of desperation clung to him like a second skin. "Dad," he said when I opened the door. "We need to talk." I let him in, noting the way his eyes scanned my house as though he was seeing it for the first time. The new furniture bought with my first mortgage-free check. The fresh paint on walls long neglected because every spare dime had gone to prop up his lifestyle. The long overdue repairs I had finally been able to afford once I stopped bankrolling his version of the American dream. "Nice place," he muttered. "That's what happens when you invest in yourself instead of people who don't," I replied. He lowered himself onto the couch's edge, too uneasy to sink in. "Dad, I need to say I'm sorry for everything. Christmas dinner, the article, the way Isabella, the way we treated you." "Go on," I prompted. I didn't know Cody planted that story, I swear. When I found out, he dragged his hands through his hair. "Jesus, Dad, the things they said behind your back. About you, about our family, about Mom." My jaw tightened at Maria's mention, but my voice stayed steady. "And what did they say about your mother? That she knew her place better than you knew yours. That she understood boundaries." He dropped his gaze, shame coating his words. "I should have defended you. Should have stood up years ago." "Yes," I said evenly. "You should have." We sat in silence, the weight of 5 wasted years pressing down on us both. Outside, I heard a neighbor mowing his lawn, the sound of ordinary life. In an ordinary neighborhood where sons didn't banish their fathers from Christmas tables. "The house is in foreclosure," Michael admitted, finally. "I know. We can't make the payments without," he stopped, realizing how it sounded. "Without my help," I finished. "Without the money I sent every month while you let your wife's family treat me like trash." I leaned forward. "Do you know exactly how much I gave you over 5 years?" He nodded miserably. Isabella tallied it up after Christmas. The mortgage, the down payment, everything else. Over $200,000. $237,468, I corrected. "I know, because I finally did something I should have done years ago." I added it up. His face crumpled. "Dad, I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix this." "You can't?" I said. "The money's gone. But worse than that, the years are gone. 5 years when I could have built something with you instead of paying for your wife's fantasy. I know that now." He looked at me, eyes flickering with the faintest hope. "But maybe we could start over. Maybe there's a way." "Are you asking me to start covering your mortgage again?" I asked flatly. The spark in his eyes died. "We're going to lose everything, Dad. The house, Isabella's respect, her parents' approval. I don't know what I'll do." "You'll figure it out," I said, not unkindly. "The same way I figured out how to live without a son who respected me. The same way I learned to spend Christmas alone while you celebrated with people who thought I wasn't good enough." He broke, then crying quietly, the way a man cries when all the excuses are gone. "I lost you, didn't I? I chose them over you, and now you're gone." I watched him, this man I'd raised, loved, sacrificed for Hood, let outsiders convince him his father wasn't worthy. Michael, I said finally, you didn't lose me. You gave me away. There's a difference. Tears streaked his cheeks. Is there any way you could forgive me? I forgave you months ago, I answered, and it was true. But forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't mean things go back to the way they were. And it sure doesn't mean I'll fund a lifestyle that only bought me scraps of your time. Then, what does it mean? I walked to the mantel, where Maria's picture sat beside a new one me with Rosa and her family at Easter. The first holiday I'd spent with people who genuinely wanted me there. It means if you want a relationship with me, you'll have to rebuild it from the ground up. It means you give me respect instead of demanding I earn it. It means that the next time someone, your wife, her parents, anyone tries to shut me out, you remember who has actually stood by you? He nodded slowly, finally understanding that respect couldn't be borrowed. The house, he asked, voice low, isn't my problem anymore, is it? I sat back down, lighter than I had felt in years. You're a grown man. Handle it like one. Get a job that pays enough. Sell the house and buy something affordable. Stop living beyond your means and expecting me to make up the difference. He stood, his shoulders straighter than when he'd walked in. You're right about all of it. I know. At the door, he paused. Dad, when you stood up for yourself at Christmas dinner, I was proud of you. Embarrassed, angry, yes, but proud, too. Good, I said. Maybe there's still hope for you yet. When he left, I poured myself a glass of good whiskey and stepped onto the porch. Spring was coming to Spokane. Trees budding, air warm with promise. In 4 months, I'd turned 63. Maria had been gone 8 years. I'd wasted 5 of them being a doormat. I wasn't wasting another. My phone buzzed with a text from Rosa. Dinner Sunday. The kids want to show you their projects. I smiled and typed back. Wouldn't miss it. Real family, I learned, were the people who actually wanted you there. The rest was just expensive theater, and I was done buying tickets to plays where I wasn't welcome. The whiskey burned smooth, tasting like freedom, and the future shone exactly as bright as I decided to make it. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click on the box to the left.